Okay, so we are live for the Minnesota Illuminati WorldViewer Network training. On the screen, you can see I have just a full dome theater configuration, which is why you can see the full dome image to the right of the screen. And then I have my WorldViewer WorldComposer screen on the left-hand side. Normally, you would obviously have your dome operating on your display up on your dome, but for training, so you can see things happening, I have it here on the flat screen as well. So as many of you know from the first training, once you open up WorldViewer, the tab button will bring up your WorldComposer menu. This is where you can create the layers and insert your content and manipulate it so that you can have a composition. As well, you know, this is where you would put all of your OSC scripting if you would like to automate things, and I did automate things inside of this presentation. I also went a little overboard on the OSC scripting on this presentation, just so you could learn how to manipulate it. But there is easier ways than I have it in here, but I wanted to include as much OSC scripting in this composition so that if you need to reference it in the future, you can just open up this comp and take a look at the OSC scripting. So to leave this menu, you can either click this hide button up here. You could also just hit tab again and it will bring you back out. The escape button brings up your file options in your settings window. This is where you would import and export compositions. It's where you would go to load a composition you have saved on the computer. And I will dive into these settings just a little bit to help you understand what this can all do. So if I wanted to export the package I have right now, I would just click export, and it's going to by default bring you to your C Illuminati WorldViewer 2 content export folder. You would just name your export and hit save. I'm not going to do this because this composition is about 11 gigabytes and I don't want us to have to wait. I already have it exported that I'll send to you afterwards. To import a composition, you would just click import. I recommend, and before we do this, let's change gears here. I recommend taking a composition that you have exported, okay, and going into your content export folder. And I like to just move this file, okay, copy it, and I like to move it right into the bundles folder. I find that the import works better when you are importing it from this location. So I would get in the habit of just moving your bundle files over. I also sometimes will just export right to the bundles folder, just rather than going to export. So just some little tricks that I've learned that make things a little bit easier. But I've seen less errors in the import when I launch it from inside this same bundles folder that it's going to move all the content to. Once a folder has been imported and you've imported this file, it will create a folder like you see here. And inside that folder will be a content folder and all of the information that is inside of that content, okay? And so it will show you all of what's needed in order for you to operate that composition here on WorldViewer. The load composition is fairly simple. It's going to take you by default to your compositions folder, which is your local compositions. To get to your bundled compositions, you would just click on content, go into bundles, and visit whichever bundle it is, and you can see the bundle or the WorldViewer file .wv2 is located inside of there. So you can see I have them for all of them. That would be how you load your composition. When you save it, it is also going to save it in the same spot. So compositions you've imported are all going to be located in your bundles folder versus compositions you've made will be in your compositions folder. Obviously, quit will exit you from the program. Inside settings, you have input. This is where you can adjust the sensitivity of your joystick, PS4 controller, mouse. I set my mouse sensitivity to 10. It's a little bit higher than some of the others like it, but I like my mouse to spin the globe pretty fast because I'm usually only inside WorldViewer for demo purposes or for training. If I was doing an actual show, I would probably turn that down a little bit so that the movement isn't so quick. Your display settings, this is where you change your configuration files. So if you were going to display it full dome, you would choose that here. If you were going to display it on a panorama screen, or you wanted this composition to go inside of a globe, you would just come in here and select your Omnity configuration. It will open up your Omnity folder. And inside here, you have lots of .xml files. These are, if you don't have them or need additional ones for screens you have, just reach out to us and we can help get your configuration settings. As you can see, I have quite a few because I do a lot of demos, but this is where you would change it. So I'm operating right now on a full dome so that you can see the complete dome over here, because that is what most of you will be working in, is full dome or a geodome theater style. So this is where you'd be able to make those adjustments. Your composition settings. For those of you that are going out and doing outreach programs, or you may be using the same composition over and over, you can come in here, select your default composition. I'm going to choose WorldViewer 2 Training. It's going to reload that. But what that means is every time I open up WorldViewer, the default composition that it will open is WorldViewer Training. This will be good for those of you that are traveling around so that you're not constantly having to find the file that you're looking to open. And then About will show you what version of WorldViewer you are working inside of, in case support ever needs that information. It also has your key code right here in case you need to provide that for support at all. 9 times out of 10, if you do need support, they are able to remote into the computer and assist you that way. So most of the time they will get this information themselves if they need it. So we're going to dive into the composition a little bit. I'm going to play through it once just so you can see what's going on inside the composition. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to build this composition from scratch. I'm probably not going to do everything I have inside of it just for time purposes, but I will be sure to go through each of the different processes with you so that you can see it from start to finish. I know if you're anything like me, that will assist you greatly in understanding how to build the composition versus just knowing what everything does. So I'm going to hit the tab, and that's going to bring us into this menu. To restart, I'm just going to click on this image here of the eye, which is the launch key. I'm going to watch. You can see on the file, it is playing some information here on the dome. Because of the internet speed, it's a little bit slow, but the recording will be better on YouTube because it's recording locally. Now, once that process is finished, it will bring up our main menu. Okay, our main menu is this file here. I'm going to just kind of push it along a little bit. And let's see here. I apologize, 1 second. We need to pull in a different configuration file. The reason being is I want to be able to show you how to have a GUI screen if you were maybe operating a globe or you wanted to be able to walk around and manage your show from, let's say, a Surface Pro remotely. You would be able to do that. So I'm going to choose a different configuration file. All right. So this is the same configuration file that you guys have from the training. It's the Bell Museum Theater file. This was put on your computer by Clement at the first training. If you don't have it and you need it, let me know. I will get it to you. But now I'm going to actually start over so you can see what's happening. So instead of just having the WorldViewer screen, I also have what's called the GUI. that I could have operating on a separate touch screen or a separate flat screen to control it rather than having to go into the guts of WorldComposer and operate it that way. So inside of here, we have a little video here about learning about the Illuminati. I'm not going to go through that. It's unnecessary. If I click on the go to main menu, it's going to bring up a main menu on my GUI. And in my DOM, I'm keeping the same display, which is just the Illuminati logo projected up onto the night sky. And as we go through this, I'm going to show you all of the different capabilities we have inside of here. And once I do that, we will go through and we'll build one portion of each of these different sections. Okay. So the first section is Earth overlays. What I've built here is the evolution of the H1N1 influenza pandemic. And so this is something that will be inside your file, but it's an Earth overlay. It's a little bit hard to see on the training file, but it's actually has some image sequencing going on, which shows the outbreak. On the GUI screen, you can see I have some text if I wanted to make it interactive for somebody to be able to learn as they're going along with it from the flat screen. But I don't have that displaying on the DOM because we don't want it to come away from the show. I have a return to main menu button here on my GUI that allows me to return to the main menu, but it makes the operation on the DOM seamless so that there's no bouncing window from window on the actual DOM itself, even though I'm going from different viewing types. So this is geolocated panorama bubbles. I will show you how to take a video, geolocate it somewhere on the Earth, so when someone visits it, they can just click on that pano bubble, and on your DOM, it will fly into the video and show the video full DOM. If you can see on the GUI, I have a return to panos button and a return to main menu button. So they can go back to just the panos or back to the main menu, whichever they choose. On the return to panos, I also have a button that says show pano GUI. If I didn't want, as an operator, if somebody wasn't really looking at my GUI and I just wanted it for the ease of showing the show, I could have a separate GUI going on here that allows me to just click the videos from image files on the GUI rather than having to spin the Earth myself, find the file or the bubble, and then go. So it allows me to control which video I'm going in just a little bit faster. And I also used a look at function, so it spins the Earth to the bubble first and then flies into the pano bubble. So it looks as though you operated it by hand. On that note, we're going to bounce back to the main menu. Picture in picture is your solution for when you don't have 360-degree content, but you still want to display it on the DOM. This works well if you find neat YouTube videos that, of course, would allow licensing-wise for you to display in the DOM. That may go through Earth, Sun, and Stars for different children's programs or other planetarium shows that you saw that are available on YouTube, but they're not in 360. Okay, you can pull it in using picture in picture. And what picture in picture is basically like a billboard up on your DOM. And so it allows you to show flat media, but still have a wow factor to it, and show additional 4K content up on the DOM that you don't have in 360. So it just gives you more ability. I'm going to go back to the main menu. This is YouTube streaming. Because I am really pushing the load on the internet with this, I'm going to show one just pretty quickly, but these are actually streaming live from, or streaming real time from YouTube using a URL. This is not exactly a great option if you're doing shows at high traffic times, because it will be dependent upon your internet speed. Okay, this is a 360 image of a dive into the Starry Night painting. I see now that I have it up on the dome that there is some changes I need to make to this video. It's not relaying the video properly on the dome, and so I will show you when we import this video how to adjust those settings. Then I have a back to the YouTube button. So that content was actually streaming via the internet from a YouTube URL. There also is a good program out there that I have used called 4K Download or 4K Video Downloader. It is a free application, but it allows you to download YouTube content, and you can even download it all the way up to 4K in its original format. It just makes it so you can host that video locally on your machine, so you're not relying on your internet connection when displaying that content. We're gonna go back to the main menu here. You can play full dome shows that you've already created inside of WorldViewer. These were just pulled off of YouTube for demoing purposes, but loaded these using the 4K downloader. If you're going to use content from a source like that, that you do download it, it will stream better on your computer. I know it's hard to see that via your Hangout session right now, but it does display in up to 4K. So depending on what projection system you have at your facility, it would look really nice. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of content out there. You just have to look and see what you are able to use and so forth. Inside of executables, we have the Worldwide Telescope and Uniview. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use Worldwide Telescope. It takes less time to load. Now, when I click that button, what it's actually doing is it is using a scripted executable command that we have a template in WorldViewer for you that allows for you to automatically launch Worldwide Telescope and or Uniview so that you don't have to interrupt your show. However, I'm going to pull this over to my other computer screen so that you can see it operating on the dome. But all I do is control Worldwide Telescope and Uniview using, obviously I need to make some changes to the way the video is being displayed on the dome here, which we'll go through and do. But you can see I basically can control Worldwide Telescope right through its interface, but it's displaying on my dome through WorldViewer. And this allows for me to not have to bounce from screen to screen when I'm going from one program to the other. And if you're playing a full dome show and then you want to jump into Uniview and then you want to bounce back out and show some different content, you can do so. When I click the return to previous menu, it automatically shuts down Worldwide Telescope for me. And it will do the same with Uniview, okay? And this is so that you are not utilizing all of your computer's power by having all of these applications open when you're doing a show. It will allow for you to control a little bit more. I am gonna just pop us over to the main menu here. And that is really all that I think is going to interest you guys as far as the capabilities. And I don't want to go too far in this training. We can do another deep dive in a couple of weeks if you guys are interested. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to build this composition in front of you guys. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to load, and I like to load from a composition called blank comp. It automatically is going to put in the earth for us. So this is going to be the file that we're creating. And what I'm going to do right off of the bat is I'm going to insert a space background. So I right click inside of that cell. I click load new clip, and I'm loading just a file. So I choose File, and I go to our folder called Space. And inside here, I prefer the All Sky 2 mass image. And I just need to tell WorldViewer what kind of file this is and how you want it displayed on a dome. And so we're going to choose star map because this is, in fact, our star map. So I'm going to click this little show button right here, which is the eyeball above the chapter. And now that I'm showing that chapter, you can see the sky in the background. Now, I like to have an introduction chapter, but we're just going to start right out with a main menu. So the main menu, I name my chapter. I can name it a couple of different ways. I'm actually going to make this large screen for you. I can control the size of things by moving this diamond, okay? And so I like, and you can control the grid over here by moving this diamond. So for the purposes of you being able to see what I'm doing, I'm going to keep the stuff pretty large. Now, what I want to do is I want, as soon as this file loads and opens, I want the Earth to start spinning like this. Okay, it's a good wow factor, and it creates some motion right away for people. And so, how we do that, okay, is OSC scripting. Okay, and in the links that I sent you guys, I will include a cheat sheet for OSC scripting. But there's a couple of different ways for you to get the OSC scripting inside of WorldViewer on your own. And if you go over something, the eyeball is to show and to hide, just like it is to show and to hide the chapter or to start and stop. And so what I do is just click the eyeball and it stops the Earth, click the eyeball and it starts it again. If I right click on the eyeball, it gives me the OSC command that I want to use. And so I could just click that OSC command and it's now copied to my clipboard. And I can come and tell it in the OSC section or the events section what you want to happen. I can right click and I can say paste and replace or paste and append, and that will determine what it does to this particular chapter. Now, I don't want to hide and show the Earth. What I want to do is create rotation. And this is going to be just a little bit more complex than being able to right click on something to get the action. Okay. And so this is something I know off the top of my head, but it will be in your cheat sheet. So the scripting to make the Earth rotate, to start a new line, always use /, and I want to tell it that the main camera, so I say main camera, and the action I want it to do is set RPM, okay, and capitalization is critical inside of OSC scripting, especially with your menus as well. If it's a capital letter in your clip title, then it needs to be a capital or lowercase here in your scripting. And so I'm going to say set the RPM to 2, okay? Now, if I want to test it, I can say run the script, and you'll see that our, let's see here. Main camera, set RPM, 1, run the script. And when I hit run the script, you can see it now is rotating the Earth. The higher I put the number, the faster the Earth spins. If I say set rotation at 5, the Earth is going to be screaming, and it's going to make people dizzy and puking. It's not going to be enjoyable. But you can even use fractions. So if I wanted it to go 0.5, I could do that, and it'll go nice and slow. Okay. I would say a good rotation is 1. Is pretty average. 0.5 is good if you have something going on in front of them. So if I did a picture-in-picture, I wouldn't want the sky background going any faster than 0.5, or it will make you dizzy. In fact, most of the time I will stop the movement in the background when I have something in the foreground going on, just so that I don't make people sick. Now, on the left-hand side, we have tracks which are like layers. Think of them as layers. The furthest down is the closest to you. The furthest up is the furthest away. So space obviously is the furthest away. Going across, we have chapters, okay? We can have as many chapters as we want inside of the composition. We can have as many tracks as we want inside of the composition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to add a track. I'm going to name this track. I can name it by double clicking over here. I can also name it by just changing the title over here. So we're going to name this GUI, and this will be where we place all of our GUI information. If I want GUI to override background music, I can just click and drag it up in, and that will be, now the background music will be a layer behind. I'm not going to use any music in the training, but it's pretty simple to do. So I suppose I'll show you how to at least add one, so you know how to add voiceovers and how to change volume, etc. So in our first chapter, we have our GUI. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build our GUI. So let's start by saying load new clip. And when you're operating a GUI, you need to make sure you choose GUI as the clip type. Then it wants to know what type of file you want to place on the GUI. Touch screen text is like the text I had inside of the last composition. Describing the H1N1 outbreak. A button is something that you can click and cause action using OSC scripting. So for this, I'm going to do a button text. Button text means I'm just going to have a box with text on it. Okay. If I chose a graphic, I could choose a graphic file, and that graphic would become a button, like you saw with the Worldwide Telescope launcher. Was just the Worldwide Telescope icon. So when I click on this cell, it'll show me all of the files I have in the cell. And the first one we have here is our first button. And we're going to call this first button Earth Overlays. And I want to name it because if I want to use scripting later, I want to know what all my buttons are called. So by general practice, I name my GUI buttons what they're going to do, followed by GUI, all capital. So we'll call this Earth Overlays. I always capitalize the first letter of each word, and then capital GUI. So I know this is the button to take us to the Earth Overlays chapter, okay? Which we have not created yet, but we will. And what I want is now I want to come to GUI properties. This is where I can control what the button says. And you can see I have a little play button here, okay? And that is using something called Font Awesome, okay? And Font Awesome has a cheat sheet that I will share the link with you. But for purposes of training, I am going to just quickly show you what that cheat sheet looks like and how to utilize it. Font Awesome is built into WorldViewer, so it's not something that you're going to have to download and bring into your computer. And so the cheat sheet is one of the links I'll send you, but it is just a web file of all of the different little icons that you can use. And they're named pretty well. And so for Earth Overlays, there's not really an Earth file. So I'm going to hit Control F, and I'm going to look for something that we can use for Earth Overlays. And we'll just use like a check mark, or let's just use this little arrow, okay? So I just copy this arrow, Control Copy, and I can paste it as the first icon inside of the file. And that's how I create these little icon images. And so we're just going to call this Earth Overlays. And this is what will display on your button text, is what you leave here. And so you can see that that image just changed up here in the top. I can change the size of the text, okay, relative to the height of the box, right? So if I want it to be 75% of the height of the box, I bring it to 75, okay? I'm going to close that. GUI position. This is where it is positioned on the screen. So if I hit the tab button, you can see it's covering the whole screen. All right. And if I don't want that, I want it to be small and near the bottom. I'm going to zoom out of the earth a little bit here. So if I want, I can create a grid, okay, so that all of my buttons are the same size. And I'm going to create a grid that is, let's say, 30 across and 20 top to bottom, okay? So now you can see the grid has shown up. I will move this button down, and now I can size it according to the grid. And that way, when I create additional buttons, they'll all be the same size, okay? So this is, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 8 by 2 is my button size, all right? And so I can close this GUI position. As you can see, it's now moved over here, okay? And I'm going to tell it what I want it to do, okay? Now we know we're gonna want an Earth Overlays chapter, so I'm gonna come to chapter 1 and I'm gonna name, I'm actually, you know what, I'm gonna delete these chapters because they don't have anything in it. And I'm going to duplicate the chapter we just made so that it has the items in there, and I'm going to remove this clip from the chapter. So now at least this chapter has the Earth and the space on it. When I look at it, it's just Earth and space, and you can see just Earth and space on the dome. So when I come back to the main menu, you can see our button on the GUI, but not appearing on the dome. So I'm going to name this chapter, what did we say? So we need Earth Overlays, okay? And I'm going to put a capital CH so I know that that item is a chapter, okay? And I forgot to, or the GUI is there, right? So I have a convention for myself that I use so that I know what I'm referencing every time I'm writing scripting, because as you get better at writing OSC scripting, you won't do the copy and paste feature. You'll just type it out by hand because it's faster. Now, what I want to do is I want to come back to the cell with our GUI buttons inside the main menu chapter, and I want to tell this button what I want it to do when it's pressed. And so there's two types of events. There's events, and then there's GUI events. GUI events are what happens when you touch that GUI button. And so on click, what I want it to do is I want it to play the Earth Overlay chapter. And so I can right click on the eyeball and say I want to copy OSC, and I can just copy the script, or I can write it by hand. So I'm going to copy it by clicking it. Now, as you can see, when it comes to menus or to chapters, there's several different ways to reference a chapter. You can reference it by its number, which is corresponding to its location from left to right on the chapters bar. You can say play chapter next, which will just play the next chapter in line. Or you can say play chapter and then the title of the chapter. Now, all of us will have our own preference on what we like to do. Because I like to automate a lot of things using OSC scripting in my compositions, I always reference by title name, okay? And I do that because if I move Earth Overlays further down in the chapter line and I say play chapter 1, then it's going to play the next chapter regardless of whether it's Earth Overlays or not. So I'm going to choose the one that has the title of it. And I can right click in here and just say paste and replace. So now if I test that OSC button, it will bring us to the Earth Overlays. So you can see the eyeball is lit over Earth Overlays now. So that OSC scripting is working, okay? But I also want to create additional buttons. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna first create our chapters, okay? So I'm gonna create our next chapter. Our next chapter is going to be Pano. And so there, it's the panels chapter, CH, so I know it's a chapter title. We're going to right click and create another one. We're going to call it, oop, see, they're easy to move around. So that's why I always recommend naming the chapters. So we need a YouTube chapter. We need an executables chapter. And we'll do a full DOM chapter. As you can see, I've done each one the two different ways so you could see as we were going along. And I'm going to go ahead and delete chapter 4 because we don't need it. So this should give us enough for me to show you how to use each of the different file types, okay? And so we're going to create a menu button for each one of those chapters. And so there's a couple of different ways. I can right click and hit load new clip, or I can just come here and say duplicate this one because it's going to be just like it. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to pull this one up. I'm going to rename it right away. It's going to be Panos GUI. Okay, so, or it's Panos chapter GUI, I suppose. And we want to change the OSC scripting because we don't want it to take us to Earth overlays. We want it to take us to Panos chapter, okay? I could have also done this by right-clicking on Panos chapter, copy OSC, play chapter Panos, and I could right-click and say replace, okay? I do still need to come into GUI properties and change it to Panos, and these are geolocated, so let's bring up our font awesome, and let's get one for location. So here's a location icon. We'll copy that, and we'll bring it over here, and we'll paste it in, and this is our Pano bubbles. Now, I'm just not creating line separations, but if you hit enter, it will create a line separation in your file or in your button, and you can create spaces doing that, etc. Okay. If you're not interested in doing that, you can just leave it as a normal line and it will fit it to the box based on your settings that you have control. Now, currently its position is located right on top of our other button, and we definitely don't want that. So I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to slide it over, and I'm going to keep, you know, 2 spaces between it, right? Now I'm going to just duplicate this button again, and we're going to change this one. Will be our YouTube GUI button. And we want it to say YouTube. And actually, there is font awesome YouTube icons. So let's go and put YouTube. And we will copy the icon, and we will say YouTube. Now you can see it's changed down here. We'll drag this out 2 and keep it 2 away. As you can see, we did it so that it lines up perfectly. We need to come down to GUI events, and we need to change this button to play our YouTube chapter, which is named YouTube CH. Okay, now we need one more button, or 2 more. We need executables and full DOM. So we'll right click, duplicate. We'll name this executables GUI. We want it to say executables. My spelling is terrible, no judgment. And I happen to know that there is a rocket and nothing says launch like a rocket. So when we want to launch executables, we'll use the rocket logo. And now we just need to change its position. And I'm going to actually, because there's only 2 more, locate it so that it's symmetric because I'm OCD. Or I mean, so that it lines up nicely. I guess I should say it's not symmetric. And we need to change the OSC scripting to go to our executables chapter. One more. And this is going to play our full dome chapter. We want it to be here. Yes, I'm sorry, Sarah, I didn't see the question. The files will all be available to you. I will also include some configuration files so you have them for different screen types. And a bundle is all of the files. It would be like zipping up all of the files that are needed for a composition. So the bundle will make it so that all of the links, think of like an Adobe file. When you link that file to it, we need those files to be available on your computer, but we also need WorldViewer to know where those files are located. So it takes all of the files that are inside your composition, packages them up into a folder, and then references those files when you import the composition into your computer. Make sense? Awesome. Okay. Without space moving to. I've never done it, but I would imagine there would be a way I would just have to look into it for you. And so I'll look into that because that would be a cool feature. Well, no, you can't, because when you spin the Earth, the stars behind it change, right? So you can't spin the Earth without spinning space. All right, so for the full dome, let's just make sure that I corrected everything. Do I have anything dome related? Of course not. Let's have a play button. Okay. I'm going to pull the dome back up so we can see. All right, so we have everything corrected here. I just want to make sure I corrected. All right, so inside of our file now, on our GUI, we have all of our buttons. And if I click one, they're going to take us to that chapter. Now, because we don't have anything going on in that chapter, there's nothing to see. So what we need to do is we need to come into the Earth Overlays chapter, and we need to create a button for people to return back to the main menu. So what we're going to do is we're going to create load new clip, and we're going to say it's a GUI, and we just want button text. And I'm going to come here, and we will name this return to TMM for to main menu GUI. Okay. Now, what we can do here, I want to do something a little bit different. We're going to use the, let's see here, Font Awesome has, I know they have a replay button or reply, so we'll do that. And I'm actually going to do a space and return and to, and then main menu. And this will make it so that it's stacked in that order. Now I want it to be much more of the box. So we'll go like this. You can see it changing up on top as you're sizing it as well. And I'm going to change the appearance a little bit. I don't want a box. So to make the background clear, I can go 0, 0, 0, 0. Now the background is clear. And I want the text color to be white, so it shows up against space. And so we'll change the text color to 1, 1, 1, 1, which is white. Now, if you look, you can see it's not placed where we want it. So we need to come and we need to go to its position, and we're just going to move it down into the corner, and I'm going to resize it a little bit so it's not so large. We don't need it to be quite that large. And now you can see there's a return to main menu button down here. We need to tell this when it is clicked, we would like it to play chapter main menu. So I'm going to paste and replace, but I also want it to turn this button off when I click it. So we'll come here and we'll right click and say hide clip. So this is something we'll talk about. You have clips, tracks, and chapters, right? And so clips are the items inside of a cell, chapters, and tracks. And so you would hide clip, hide track, hide chapter, show chapter, etc. So we want it to hide this button, so I'm gonna paste and append so that when we click this button, it's going to hide the button and take us to the main menu, okay? When we go to Earth Overlays, it's going to immediately show the button, okay? Because it's part of the show inside of here. But so that that never fails, I can also come to the chapter and say on play, be sure to show this button. So I'm going to paste and append, okay? And you can see for some reason it put some spaces in. I must have had some spaces in here. All right. Spaces don't hurt you, by the way. Okay, so now that we're back in here, so we'll return to the main menu. So now what we could do is we can paste this in the additional chapters so that it shows up in them as well. So what we'll do is we'll paste a clone in each of the chapters so that when we go to those chapters, that button will be there and we can return to main menu. So you can see it is now showing in all of the chapters, okay? That saves you time of having to redo things, okay? Now, in the Earth Overlays, let's actually work on some content. Let me show you another thing you can do in the GUI. I apologize. You can also display just graphics or text that are not going to display on the dome, but they're also not going to be a button or have any action. And to do that, we can come in GUI and say load a new clip. We want it to be on the GUI, so GUI, and we just want it to be a touchscreen graphic, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come to that graphic. I'm going to go and browse for a file, and I know that in Flat Media, I have still files, and I thought one was the Illuminati logo, but apparently not. Oh, I think I have it in GUI. Well, either way, let's just go and find a picture for purposes of you seeing. We'll come into the Illuminati folder, and we will grab a transparent image. I now need to see, we're going to call it Illuminati logo GUI. So I know that it's part of the GUI. And we'll come to the position, and we will change this up a little bit. And now you can see that the logo is located on the GUI. If you click it, it doesn't do anything. Okay. That way you know how to put that information on. So let's go to Earth Overlays. So I'm going to show the chapter so that we're seeing things happen on the dome. I'm going to zoom into the Earth a little bit just so that you can see it a little bit better on your screen. There we go. And now we will insert an Earth Overlay. So I'm going to go to the Earth Overlays track, load a new clip. And I am going to actually do an image sequence, okay? And we can come to Earth Overlays, image sequence, and we will grab one of these files that shows ocean currents, okay? I tell it that it is a Earth Overlay image sequence. And so now you can see on the Earth, we have ocean currents that are overlaid and the image sequence is going through. Okay, so it's being displayed on your dome, it's being displayed on your screen, on the GUI as well. I can click return to main menu and the Earth overlay goes off the Earth. And if I click back on it, it brings us back in. Okay. Let's see. Still no questions. All right, so let's move to adding a panorama. Does everybody understand Earth overlays, or do you need me to go any further? If you do, just say so, and we will add a couple more. So for the panos, I'm gonna load in the panel section just two, just so you can see how it's geolocated. So in the panels, I'm gonna right click and say load new clip. It is a file because it's a video. I come to my panels folder and I have all of these different panel files. And so I'm going to load Disney's BFG trailer from YouTube. And it is going to be geolocated, of course, where the Giants are in England. So we are going to click on this file. I'm going to come in. I don't like these extremely long names, so I changed the title of it to BFG PB for panel bubble. So I know that that is a panel bubble. Now playback controls. Fly to makes it fly into the bubble. Look at makes it look at the bubble. So as you can see, the Earth is rotating to go to where the bubble is located. And there we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to geolocate it. Now, I want it to be in London, England. Okay, and I can't remember the exact name of the area of giant country in England, but I know it's somewhere in that general area. So we'll just call it London. When I click out, it will automatically, based on your location, put in the correct latitude and longitude. Now, you could also type in a physical address, right? So you could get really super specific. But what I want you to remember is the panel bubble on the dome and on the Earth will appear large. And if you put 3 panel bubbles in Minneapolis, then you're going to have a really tough time clicking on one of them because they're going to be too close together. So although it's really awesome, make sure there's enough distance that you can click on your panel bubbles accordingly. And then we come down to appearance, okay? I like there to be a preload image, and let me explain what I mean by that. If I scroll to England, and apparently I should have gone the other way, but let's scroll over there and see if we can find our panel bubble. Okay. Let's fly in. See, the problem is it doesn't show an image right away. And so when I'm programming it, I fly into it and I come down to the preload image. And while it's playing, I wait until it's a neat image. And then I just say save screenshot. And we'll call it BFG. And what that does is that makes it so that even before you play the video, that image will be displayed in the circle instead of just being a tiny black image, because it makes it very difficult to see it on the Earth. Now you can see, I can actually see the panel bubble right here because there's an image in it instead of just a black circle. So that's what the preload image does for your panel bubble. I highly recommend always having a preload image on your panel bubble. You can have multiple types of files in here. You could have a full dome show in here and geolocate it to the planetarium that recorded it. Okay. You could upload whatever files you want. So we're going to go back. I'm going to add another panel bubble. Okay. So we're going to load a new clip, and we will load a file, come down to panels, and this elephants one is pretty cool. So we'll geolocate it. We come here. I like to call it elephants PB for panel bubble. And I'm going to go to the geolocation, and we will make this South Africa. And I'm going to quickly fly into it. Okay, I can change the playback rate. So if I want it to speed up the video, I can speed it up here, which I'm going to do because the elephants are extremely slow. And I want them to basically run up to the screen. All right, so these buttons you see here, if it's on replay, it will just keep replaying the video over and over and over until you hit spacebar to fly out. If you hit pause, it will pause the video when it gets to the end. And if you hit the hide button, it will hide the video, meaning fly back out as soon as it's done. Okay. So what I do is I like to say pause because I like to control the fly out. Okay. But you could also do hide. Okay. What I want to do really quick while we have it is come to appearance, scroll down, save that screenshot. We'll call it elephants. And now we have a preloaded image. Okay. Now I want to say that I want it to fly out. So I right click on fly to when it's checked. So that unchecking it is the action I would be getting. I copy that OSC command, and I'm going to come to events, and I'm going to say when it pauses. So on pause, I want to fly out. Okay. And so what that will do is mean when the video ends, it's going to automatically fly back out to the panel bubbles chapter main area. If you right click on look at, that is the function you would need if you were creating a button that would look at the panel bubble first and then fly in. If you don't look at it first and then fly in, you may end up flying through the middle of the earth to get there, and that's not going to be as appealing on your full dome show. So I recommend getting in the habit of using the look at function first before flying into anything ever. Just a little piece of advice. The second type of panel bubble we're going to add is a geolocated YouTube panel or panel bubble. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up YouTube and get any file here. So if we go 360-degree 4K video. All right, so here is some 4K 360 video. And let's find something. So here's a 360. That's not a good one. Here's some great white sharks. Okay. So what happens is I need this URL in order to do this. And so I come to the YouTube video, I right click and say copy URL. I'm going to stop the video or it's going to keep playing with sound for me. And now I come to the YouTube channel, I go into panels, I right click and say load new clip, but this is not a file, this is a template, okay, because this is a script that's pre-written for you. So you click template and it's in the system folder, and you want to clip online video. So we say clip online video. We want it to be a panel bubble, okay? And it loads a panel bubble. So I'm going to call this Sharks panel bubble, okay? The URL, I'm going to right click, paste and replace. This allows for us to now play that video. We are going to geolocate that in Long Beach, California. And I'm going to fly to it quickly so that I can get the preload image. And this is YouTube, so the speed, of course, depends on the internet. I'm going to kind of just wait for a decent image. Here we go. So I will save a screenshot now. And so we'll call this Sharks 2 because apparently I've already done that. All right. Now, ooh, even better. Save. Okay, so now we have our preloaded image for this panel bubble. Okay, I'm going to fly out. Oh, it looks as though it's not really lining up properly on our dome. So I'm going to fly back into it and just make sure. Okay, so as you can see, it's not aligned properly on the dome. Okay, so we need to come down to kind of change this a little bit. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's see. So it is, we need to kind of move, okay. As you can see, you kind of just got to play with the settings to figure out what you need to do to the video. I don't know what I just did, but it's much closer. So this is where you'd come in and change your video to fit your size. And I really messed this one up. I apologize. We chose a really bad YouTube movie. Let's choose, because this is over under. There we go. Much better. All right. So what I did there was I came in, made it a stereo video, and chose over under versus so that it lines it up properly. But now I've messed up some of the other settings when I was playing with it. So it doesn't look all that great. But there we go. I think we've got it back now. All right, we are set. So once you get your video file set properly, you are complete. Now we can add another YouTube video here just for the purpose of seeing it one more time. So we'll do another panel bubble. We need to come to YouTube and find a video. And let's just do the elephants because it's easy. Right click, copy URL, and come in and we can just change our URL. And we can fly into the elephants, make sure that it's lined up properly. And for the preload video, we already have one. So I can browse for an image and I can choose elephants, and that will be our preload image. All right. I do recommend, although I haven't shown it, saving your composition as you go through. So I'm going to save this as live demo. Okay. And just periodically come and save your file so that you don't lose your data. Does anybody have any questions so far before we move on to executables? Okay. So for executables, sounds difficult. It's actually fairly simple. Once they get the configuration changes made for you, you will be all set. So first, let's do a couple of different things here. I want to duplicate a chapter because I want a chapter for Worldwide Telescope. So I'm going to just name it WWTCH so I know it's a chapter. And I'm going to remove these clips from the chapter. Make sure you don't say remove or delete clip and children, because if you do that, it will delete all of the clips across the whole composition and you'll be very frustrated. So always make sure you're on the cell and you say delete, just delete that clip, not all of them, okay? So now I'm going to duplicate this chapter and we're going to make this one Uniview chapter. Okay. So first thing we're going to do is on our executables chapter, we are going to create a button to launch WorldViewer. And you know what? We should have left these in there. My apologies. Paste clone, paste clone. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a button to launch these items. And so we want a GUI, and it's going to be a touch screen button graphic. So we come here, we choose the graphic file, and I just happen to know that I have the Worldwide Telescope icon. So I am going to size it, and I am going to let's see. Its position is fine, and on this, we want it to play chapter Worldwide Telescope, okay? So I'm going to do this one by hand just for training purposes. So it would be /play chapter space WWTCH, okay? And so that will launch the Worldwide Telescope chapter. Now I'm going to duplicate this button, and we're going to make a Uniview. Oops. Here we go. So I'm going to come to the Uniview. I'm sure its size isn't even close. All right. And so for the Uniview button, we want it to play chapter Uniview CH. Okay. Now that we have the GUIs built, let's go to the Worldwide Telescope chapter, and we need to do a couple of things. One, I don't really need the Earth, and I don't really need the Earth in executables. So I'm going to remove the clip from the chapter in each of these because it's unnecessary. Now in Worldwide Telescope, the first thing we need to tell it to do, and I just like to put it right under space, we need to tell it to open Worldwide Telescope. So we're going to say template system, and this is an executable. We want an executable clip. So we do clip executable, and we're going to name it Uniview Launcher. Or I'm sorry, this one's Worldwide Telescope. Worldwide Telescope Launcher. And the file that we want it to open is located in C. Actually, you know what I find easier? So we go program data, Microsoft Research, Microsoft Worldwide Telescope, and here is the Explorer icon, okay? And, or the Explorer executable file. So Worldwide Telescope Explorer.exe is what we want it to launch, okay? There we go. And so once it's launched, we want it to play on the dome. And so right underneath it, I'm going to load a new clip and call it template. We're going to go to system, and this is Spout. Spout is what you will use to operate or to view Uniview and to view Worldwide Telescope inside of the dome using WorldViewer. And so it's cube map standard is what we need for these files, okay? So we'll come to cube map standard, click open, okay? And that's it. That's all we have to do for that one. I want to just, so if we come to the executables file or screen and I click Worldwide Telescope, it looks as though nothing's happening, but really it is launching Worldwide Telescope. They're just large applications, as you know, and so they take some time to launch. Now, you can see it launching. I'm going to move it to a different screen for sanity purposes, okay? But you can see that as soon as it launches, it displays on the dome, okay? And I could do anything inside of Worldwide Telescope that I want, and it will display on the dome. And as soon as I hit this return to main menu button, it will bring me back to the main menu, and it will automatically close Worldwide Telescope as to not make your computer slow. I can watch the guided tours that are on Worldwide Telescope or Uniview or any of the files that you have. So what I'm going to do now, this is kind of just demonstrating that it's operating inside of your dome. So I'll click return to main menu. As you can see down here, okay, is my application for Worldwide Telescope has closed, okay? So I'm going to go back to executables. We're going to do the same thing for Uniview. So we right click, load new clip, template, system, executable. We come in here, we tell it what file to open, and that would be C, program files, SKIS, Uniview Theater 2, and the executable file. Okay, we also need to put Spout in here so that it has a way to display on the dome, cube map standard. And if we come and hit Uniview, you will, oh, I grabbed the wrong executable file. So C, program files, SKIS, Uniview Theater 2, oh, there it is, uniview.exe. All right, so now, if I come to executables, I click Uniview, you can see right here, Uniview is launching, okay? And then you would go through the same thing. When you hit return to main menu, Uniview closes. Yes, correct. When you do launch Uniview in Worldwide Telescope, you operate it inside of its actual window, and it will display on the dome. So we're working on actually putting those controls into WorldViewer. We're just a little bit out from that, but like I said, you can control it in the Uniview screen, and it will display on the dome. and vice versa. Same with Worldwide Telescope. So when Uniview does launch, okay, let's pull this up. Let's see here. All right. So when Uniview first opens, you have your default composition, right? Or profile. If you come down here, you can choose which profile that you want, and you can import profiles. Does that answer your question? And then once you choose your profile, you would choose, you could edit the profile, create a new one, and then instead of choosing start with the default, you would choose start with whichever profile it is you were looking for. So when you want it to launch inside of WorldViewer, it's just once you click it, okay, it comes over here, it opens this, you hit start just like you normally would, okay, whatever profile you want. And it's hard to see right now, but it's opening right here. Now, my configuration files still need to be corrected. I'm on my laptop. I'm not on one of the lab machines. So, but once it opens, you would just then operate it like you would previous with Worldwide Telescope. Okay, you have to minimize your WorldViewer window because it will control it. Okay, but then I could just operate Uniview from inside here, and it will stream right into WorldViewer just like Worldwide Telescope did. So everything you're seeing on your operations screen here inside of Uniview is what's being displayed on your dome. Okay, so 1 second. It's likely that when you launch UV itself. Yes, correct. So it operates as if you double clicked on the icon yourself. So if you have it set to open in your profile, that is the whatever profile it's set is the one that it will open for you. I'm going to close Uniview because it really slows down my computer. Okay, so return to main menu. The last thing we have is a full dome, is to import a full dome show. It's very similar to that as entering a panel bubble, okay? We come in, you put it wherever you want, right? So in full dome, you could put it, you know, in earth overlay because it's gonna lay over the entire dome anyways. So we come in and we choose file. I have them actually inside my panels, full dome. Here is the 4K universe. Well, let's do the dark matter mystery, okay? Then I choose full dome master, okay? Now this is playing inside of full dome, and you could create GUI buttons and separate chapters and have the GUI buttons start and stop these, right? So that you could have multiple full dome shows available to you. And this is a bad one to show because it doesn't have a whole lot of color or things going on inside of it, but in the beginning. You can also, under playback controls, oh, you have your appearance, just like we corrected the shark one, you could correct your pre-rendered shows here as well, okay? Inside playback controls, you can adjust the time, right? You can also come down into events, and let's say you have this full dome show, but you only want to show this 2 minutes that happens to be in the middle of the full dome show. And rather than going into After Effects and re-rendering the show and taking out the content and building it probably the way you would do it now, you could come in here and you can say on show, set current clip to whatever time you want. So right now we are at 0.577. right? So if I wanted it to start right here, I would say start at 0.577. And I test, and it's gonna, that's where it's gonna start, okay? If I say start at 0.8, it will start at 0.8, okay? And that's where it will open up when you launch that menu. So that'll be nice for those of you that have pre-rendered shows where you want to pull some content out of it and kind of mix and match, and you won't have to go into After Effects to do that. So just a neat little feature there, okay? One more I want to show you is picture-in-picture before we finish up here. And now keep in mind, I'm going to send you the bundle that has all of this going on in it with lots of different picture-in-pictures, several full dome shows, you know, several panos, multiple YouTubes. And so you can open that up and look around on it, play with it, rename it, mess it up, and then reopen it back as the original. So you guys can do that accordingly. So I'm only going to enter one picture-in-picture. So we're going to load a new clip. It's going to be a file. We'll come into, I actually have it located in, my apologies, Flat Media, Movies. And this is a 4K image just of different things in Costa Rica. And it is a picture-in-picture, okay? And you can see it takes it and puts it as a billboard, all right? Now, I could come to this, right? And I could duplicate it, create a second one, have them launch at the same time by using OSC scripting. When you click a button, they both launch, and you could have it projecting on multiple areas in the dome, okay? I'm only gonna show one for right now. But what we'll do is we'll come into this one, okay? And I'm gonna open the controls to be just a little bit larger for this. And we're gonna come down to appearance. And what I wanna do is I wanna come to area, okay? Now there is no grid in video, but I can stretch this video and make it take up as, now this happens to be a pretty awesome 4K video. So even blown up on the dome, it would look pretty cool. But I can move it all over wherever I want it, right? On the dome. And I can resize it accordingly. I could crop it if I need to, right? So I can crop any way that I need. And you can also do a preload image for this as well. Target displays, let's talk about this, because this, I don't think that it's going to be something you're ever going to use. But if you are like me and you like to have a GUI to make your show control a lot easier than having this screen up and playing this chapter and turning this on and turning it off, and you know, then coming to the videos and turning this on and turning it off, which is another way you can operate WorldViewer, okay? You could just have it all in here and do no OSC scripting and launch the chapters, right? And then turn things on and off using the hide and show buttons. But if you're like me, you'd rather be able to just click buttons and make things happen, right? And so then you would have this screen open on your control computer, and you'd have the dome projecting on your dome, and it just makes the operation of the show much easier. The only time you're gonna have to jump into this menu is when somebody throws you for a loop and asks you to do something outside of the norm, okay? And meanwhile, you're not going to affect what's going on the dome. So if somebody wants you to pull in, let's say you have a classroom there from the Bell Museum, okay, and they seem like a pretty fun bunch, and you want to show them the Bell Museum sky view, okay? So let's go to the panels and let's load a new clip. We're gonna use a template, and this one we're gonna do a street view, okay? So we're going to go Google Street View. The kids really love this. And so we'll come here. The Street View clip is this one here. And I can go to the geolocation and we can say Bell Museum of Natural History, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And there we go. So now I could fly to the Bell Museum. Theoretically. Okay, maybe it didn't find it. Let's go to I will have to check on that. I must have an outdated version of that template. But either way, you would put that in, you would hit Street View or Fly To, and then you would actually be able to control walking around, and you'd be able to use this screen here to kind of move around, and you'd be able to walk them around the Bell Museum, or they're flying into somebody's house and do a satellite view. So that's kind of something neat to do during a show to a group that's been there for a while. Other than that, does anybody have any questions for me before we wrap up? Alrighty. With that being said, I'm going to pull up one more time the composition that you'll all be receiving from me. You're not going to get this one here because it's not finished, but you will get this composition. And the reason I'm sending you this one is it has a lot more going on inside of it. I have OSC scripting all over. I have both the WorldViewer and Uniview, or I'm sorry, Worldwide Telescope and Uniview items in there. So this is the file that I will send to you for you guys to see. Okay? I hope this helped everybody and was a little bit easier since we went kind of chronologically on how to do things. If any of you guys have questions or want to set up a one-on-one session where we can help you, build a composition for a show that you have going on, just reach out to me and we'll do what we can. I will send out a follow-up email to everybody with links to the Google community. I saw some of you had already joined it. This network is going to be a much bigger advantage to all of us if we can share content and share ideas, and it will make this program a very valuable tool for you. And so feel free to join that community. When I build different compositions, or if I see neat 4K videos and things of that nature, I will post them there. As any of the unlicensed or no license necessary material. Same with you guys. If you find websites that have content that is something that you can utilize and you want to share it with the group, use the community to your advantage. Use it for questions, and then we can really capitalize the use of the WorldViewer network. That being said, I will let you go. Sarah did mention that she added the Illuminati community links to the network's website for reference and easy access. I will also give her the bundle file if she chooses to utilize it that way. And post it on there. It's a very large file. It's about 11 gigs because I have a lot of video and content in there. As far as running the GUI on a Surface Pro or an iPad, it is done using a TeamViewer connection. And there is some things we need to do to your configuration that tells WorldViewer that you have a remote connection. And if somebody is interested in having that, just let us know and we can help get you set up. And it's just one of your configuration files. And then you would always be able to operate all of your compositions from that device. So if you're somebody that likes to present in front of your groups at the planetarium, it would be a pretty neat option for you, especially if you build your compositions with a GUI for seamless operation. The only time you'd have to go to your master control station is when you want to do something outside of what you have built in, or you want to do a street view or something like that, because you cannot work WorldComposer on the remote window. So yeah, so I'll leave the community or the bundles on the community because they'll be linked to Google Drive folders. That way I'm not having to upload and download and upload and download things all the time. All right, guys, if you need anything, my cell phone number is 720-401-3847. I'm going to pop that in the chat window for you. So those of you that do not have my cell phone number, you can jot it down. You can also reach me via email. And if any of you guys have questions related to the training, just go ahead and reach out to me. Otherwise, all of you guys have a wonderful day and thank you for joining us.